Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Sad Dad Games podcast. My name is Eric.
I'm Shan.
I'm Tucker.
And as you all know, this is an episode of Eric's Indie Corner, which I'm pretty sure I just said 1 second ago. But for Eric's Indie Corner, it's a time where I talk about indie games, and that's pretty much it. I pick out an indie game that I really enjoy, and we talk about it, and I tell you why you guys should give it a try, because indie games are amazing, and everybody should play more indie games because indie games are amazing. So,
Eric, my energy is up already. I'm so excited.
I know. Let's do it.
Eric has a lot of stage presence, if you hadn't noticed.
So you either get two versions of Eric. You get the whole yeah, I'm Eric, blah blah blah, or you get the welcome back to another episode of Sad Dad Game Podcast. I'm basically falling asleep. When we first started putting these out, these episodes, I listened to the first 2 or 3 episodes of Eric's Indie Corner. I was like, does someone need to sit behind me with a cattle prod? I sound like I'm always on the verge of falling asleep. I was welcome back to Sad Dad. This is Eric, and welcome to Eric's Indie Corner. Just very boring voice naturally, and so I do my best to try to punch it up a little bit for you guys, because I had no idea how boring it was to listen to me until I recorded me and put it on the internet.
No, you remind me of Rosemary Kennedy. It's pretty sure you've had a lobotomy, or you're Rosemary's baby.
It's one of those
probably
things.
The latter.
Yeah. So on that note, after I just called myself boring to listen to, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe before you listen to me talk about things, so that you can hear me talk about more things. All right. So to jump right into it, today we're talking about actually a couple of games. We're going to be covering the Hotline Miami collection, which is comprised of Hotline Miami 1 and 2. So these games are developed by Dennaton Games, or Dennaton. I'm not really sure the exact pronunciation, but Dennaton is what I'm going to call it.
It's Debutante?
It's Debutante, developed by Debutante Games. And it was released, so Hotline Miami 1 was originally released in October 20th of 2012, which been around for over 10 years, been a while. And then Hotline Miami 2 came out in 2015. And the collection of both of them came out in 2017, which, pretty cool. So,
how does that work out with it? When was, okay, but Hotline Miami is in The Last of Us Part 2.
Yes, and it was released on PS Vita.
Okay.
Along with other things, yeah.
Does that? Oh, that does add up, because it's
2012.
They changed the years.
Yes, in the game. So in The Last of Us Part 2, the apocalypse or whatever happens in 2013, and so right. This game came out in 2012. Which actually, just going to plug our own channel here. If you go back and listen to our series for The Last of Us Part 2, I make a really awesome, super cool call out to Hotline Miami, which I was playing concurrently while we were playing The Last of Us Part 2. So it was pretty cool. Mm. And not even on purpose. I was just playing it, and then I saw it on the screen in The Last of Us Part 2, and I was like, oh, hey, I'm playing that game right now. What a weird coincidence. Murder you. And now I'm going to murder you. And then she murders that lady. All right, so
she did have it coming, though.
She did have it coming. It's probably her fault. Yeah. So for Indie Corner episodes, I like to break it down by talking a little bit about story, visuals, and then gameplay. Whoops, I did that wrong. Story, gameplay, and then visuals and sound. So we're going to talk about story first. Since 2 games, I'm going to just give a brief overview of the stories for both of them. So story for Hotline Miami 1, it's 1989, and you play as some kind of nameless hitman who you never told what his name is, but the fan base has come to lovingly refer to him as Jacket. So you play as nameless hitman, unofficially named Jacket. And you keep getting mysterious messages from a person in a rooster mask who calls you up every once in a while to give you murder targets against the Russian mafia. The narrative feels really strange and unreliable and sort of surreal. It's kind of got this weird, almost drugged up, hazy vibe to pretty much everything that's happening. Weird things happen, and you're not sure if is that real life or is that imagined? Was this some kind of dream or drug trip, or it's very mature themes, very weird kind of 80s crime, violence, drug underworld kind of a vibe to it. So I'm just sort of throwing word soup out there, but it has a very weird psychedelic 80s vibe to it, which is super cool. And then in Hotline Miami 2, The game has multiple protagonists and focuses more on the aftermath of the like the acts committed by the character from the first game. So Jacket goes around and murders a bunch of people, and then Hotline Miami 2 takes place not long after that and is focusing on like all, you play as other characters, seeing some of the, crazy things that the protagonist from the first game did. And spoiler alert, I don't like Hotline Miami 2 nearly as much as Hotline Miami 1. The first one is a much, much better game, and we'll get into that into a minute. So that's pretty much it for story. You obviously get more story as you go along, but I don't want to tell you too much because you should play it for yourself. It's really good games, except for 2. 2 is whatever. But
I want to say it sounds very similar to The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. Part 1 is you go around murdering everybody, and then Part 2 is the repercussions of it. So I say its placement in The Last of Us Part 2 is very...
Maybe it was deliberate.
Yeah.
Well, I like that analogy. Yeah, Part 1, you go around murdering literally everyone. Just so many people. And then in Part 2, you murder basically everyone also, but... All right, so gameplay style. The gameplay in this game is pretty unique. So it's like it's sort of like a top-down twin-stick shooter. For those of you who don't know, that means you control your character with one stick, and then the way that the weapon or gun is facing with the other joystick, so that you can kind of control where you're aiming and where you're moving at the same time. But it's from a top-down perspective, and so it makes it easy to move around and aim at different targets as you go along. So it involves really like hyper violent, what I would call kind of twitch gameplay, where your reactions have to be fast because the enemies are fast and they are merciless. It's another one of those games where we talked about a long, long time ago, one of Eric's Indie Corner episodes, about a game called Katana Zero, where you're moving through areas very quickly. You can kill every enemy with one hit, but they can also kill you with one hit. Hotline Miami is very much the same thing, where you kind of go through these contained areas. A lot of the levels are just like the interiors of buildings, and they're different stories. So it's like this level is this building, and it's 3 or 5 stories or whatever. And then the first story you go through, you got to clear that area out without dying, and then you go to the next part, clear that area out. But I really like this kind of gameplay because it allows you to think fast and be creative, but it also does a really good job at letting you fail quickly. So like when you are going through something and someone might sneak up on you that you could never have possibly seen coming, and you die super fast, but the game reloads you super fast and goes, all right, now try again right away. And so instead of failure being frustrating, failure teaches you. It's very much like a trial and error kind of a gameplay loop. But the effect that has is once you do kind of figure out the patterns of everyone walking around, is you can just sort of run through a floor super fast and kill everything and look like a total badass doing it. And so big fan of that kind of gameplay loop. I think it's super fun.
Yeah, that's the core reason I went with the PS5 over the Xbox. It's like technically when they released, the Xbox had better hardware, and ultimately it was like I just want the split-second reload times, because I knew that was one of my biggest negative feedback loops to why I didn't want to keep playing games. And once that cut down to like 1 to 3 seconds, it's like, okay, I can play this game 2-3 times longer.
Yes, I think that does a huge amount. Like it's having something load back really quickly, get you back in the game really quickly, takes a huge amount of the frustration out of failure. For example, I played a little bit of Demon Souls on the PS5. I say a little bit. I played like 30 hours of Demon Souls. Yeah, I played a lot of Demon Souls. I didn't quite beat it, but I did a lot of it, and that like is
did
super.
You play Oh, sorry. I had to ask, did you pay the demon's toll to get into that demon's soul?
To the demon's soul. It really sounds like he's saying demon's hole. Gotta pay the troll toll if you want to get into that demon's hole. It's actually, so that game is one of the most infuriatingly named games ever, because it's not Demon Souls, it's Demon's Souls. It's like, who was in charge of that? That's a stupid name. I love FromSoft. Y'all make great games. That's a stupid name for a game. Demon's Souls? That's like 3 more S's than that title needs. Yeah.
Sounds like you're trying to say Demon's Soul, but you're saying Demon's Hole.
Yeah. Got to get into that Demon's
chewing
Hole.
Gum? Said no gum.
Dude, do you have a boner?
Shut up, don't ruin this for me.
Oh, man. So, for those of you who don't know, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The Nightman Cometh. That's the episode we're referencing. It's good stuff. Go watch it.
He cometh hard.
Yeah, he cometh hard. So, anyways. Getting me all off track here. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the gameplay loop in Hotline Miami. It's fun to just go through things very quickly. Also, the hype, like excessive, absurd amount of violence is weirdly cathartic. Like you can do things where you bash open doors and it knocks people over, but they don't die. If you don't, they'll get back up and they have to attack you. So you either need to like shoot them or you can go over to them and like bash their skull in by either stomping on them or hitting them with a melee weapon. And they don't always just die in one hit. Sometimes you'll like knock him over and then he goes over with the bait, like you grab him with his hand just like up against the wall. He's like, poof, 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 and then their head like explodes. It sounds gross, but it's presented in a way that the violence is weird and cathartic and overly gratuitous and in a fun way. And so you kind of just move through these levels quickly. You can pick up weapons from enemies, so that's another layer of strategizing, is you can say, all right, I'm going to run in here, I'll grab this knife, I'll throw the knife at that guy, he'll drop a gun, and then I can use the 6 bolts in that gun to pop, 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 and then I'll run over to that guy with the baseball bat. So you start to like plan your routes based off of the weapons that enemies have and where they are and when they'll see you. And it is usually always better to just kind of find a path and run in, guns a-blazing. I guess you probably could play stealthily and try to pick people off one at a time, but that takes a long time. And people are almost always going to notice you that you can't really be prepared for. So it's a game that kind of forces you and encourages you to just be fast and quick and violent and to improvise and think quickly, which is super fun. I really like that. So that's Hotline Miami 1. Big fan of that gameplay experience. And the reason I'll start to get in now why I don't like Hotline Miami 2 as much. I don't know how far I got into Hotline Miami 2. I played it for probably about 4-ish hours. And then I got to a point where I was like, screw this. This game isn't fun anymore. So full disclosure, I have not beat Hotline Miami 2 because it has some pretty glaring gameplay flaws.
It's the wrong kind of hard.
It is the wrong kind of hard. And I'll tell you why. Shannon Tucker liked to tease me. I have a gameplay philosophy called the wrong kind of hard. Hard games are fun. Hard games can be fun. I like Dark Souls. I like Hollow Knight. I like old school, tough as nails platformers. I like it when games are hard if there's a purpose for the difficulty and if it is thoughtfully designed difficulty. If you're just throwing crap at me just to make something harder, that's not fun. That's the wrong kind of hard. And Hotline Miami 2 leans really hard into the wrong kind of hard. And how it does that is its largest offender, I think, is that the levels are way too large and way too sprawling. And so it takes that feedback loop, the whole like move quick, try again quickly, get back in the saddle quickly. It completely kills that momentum. So levels will be huge. They'll have 20, 30, 40 bad guys in one area that you're expected to anticipate and get through in one clean go, which is absurd and insane. And so rather than, in Hotline Miami 1, where going through the floor of a level, if you do it quickly and you do it right, it'll take you 30 to maybe 60 seconds. You can just kind of like, once you find a path, you can cut through it quickly. Hotline Miami 2, I found some levels that were upwards of like 3 to 5 minutes and it's just demanding perfection from you. And if you get shot once, it kicks you all the way back to the beginning of that segment, which is not fun. It's poor game design. It's not fun. And
fans of the show, if you look up Eric on IMDb, you'll see that he started in a porno 10 years ago called The Wrong Kind of Hard.
Kind of hard. It's my only IMDb credit.
Although he had 2 sequels.
How long has Shan been sitting on that joke? I could see it in your eyes. You were workshopping that one.
Once I start snickering, yeah, exactly. You know that I'm cooking something.
Yep. Shan didn't listen to a word I just said. He just had the joke in the back of his brain. He's like, I just gotta wait for an opening.
It didn't sound that important.
So
that's one of Eric's sequels.
You what?
Said that was one of Eric's sequels.
Yep, 100%.
Of Shan coming and get it, yeah.
69%.
69%. All right. So, Hotline Miami 2, not a bad game, but well, I don't know. I would consider it to be kind of a bad game. It fumbles pretty hard in some fundamental areas. And one more thing that I found particularly frustrating about Hotline Miami 2 is it demands perfection from the player, but the game design is not willing to meet that perfection as well. So, for example, you are expecting every time you tackle a level for enemy placement to be the same, for their movement patterns to be the same, so that you can plan and anticipate and move through things, especially levels that take like 5 minutes. And the enemy AI just does not do that. There are some times where you'll start a level and you'll move through a certain way, and an enemy will like be in a different spot than he was last time, and which makes it impossible to plan for and anticipate. So the intended gameplay loop of trial and error doesn't work in Hotline Miami 2 because the game design and the enemy placement and the enemy AI is antithetical to being able to do that. And so I didn't particularly care for Hotline Miami 2. I don't think it's a very good game. I think it took a lot of the wrong lessons from Hotline Miami 1, doubled down in areas that it shouldn't have. And it's a bummer because Hotline Miami 1 is a super awesome game that I definitely very highly recommend. But the second one, I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just sequels that learn the wrong lessons of what made it successful. And this is the Resident Evil curse and everything like that. Like, I don't know. There's probably 4, several franchises that did that. Yeah.
4, well, not 4. 4 is the good one, 5, and then 5 and 6. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like okay, but kind of awful. And then 6, it's like, we're just going to triple down on our bad ideas.
Yeah, I watched another YouTube series about this guy. It's called What Happened, where he talks about like the development cycle of video games and like what went wrong. And it's very, very fascinating. And I watched one for Resident Evil 6, where it was just like showing that they were really doubling down on the action. And they went into so much more depth than I'm going to here. But the thing that made me laugh is they showed like an explosive barrel in Resident Evil 5. And it like, you shoot the barrel and it explodes. And it's like, just like a little normal sized explosion. And then in Resident Evil 6, it's like the same thing. There's like the classic video game red barrel. You shoot the barrel and it fills the screen with flames. And it's just like a screen filling nuclear explosion that like rattles. It's like one barrel and it's just like explosions, excitement.
Wasn't the 6
This is a better game.
Written and directed and produced by Michael Bay?
Probably. Based on that one exploding barrel, that would totally make sense. So. Yeah, learning the wrong lessons from predecessor games is something that Resident Evil 6 and Hotline Miami 2 have in common.
And Halo. Yeah. I mean, after 343 was done with it, it's like they got rid of like the horror genre, and that was like half of the ethos of what made Halo.
Yeah, Halo Combat Evolved, the first one, like that part where you go down into the library and you face the flood I think it's the first time. It's been a minute since I played that game, but that is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they got the mechanics. They got the mechanics botched, and so the game, the level design suffered because of it. Because they allowed you to run and slow down, so you could just run past enemies. So they had to start like locking you in rooms to force you to fight all of your enemies, and that really bastardized the pacing. And they kind of solved that going to the 5th one. It's just if they had just taken out the ability to run/walk and just always be going the constant speed like a Doom guy, like they could have preserved the original design philosophy, that and the genre. Those are the two biggest things that they ruined, but they just kept going with the bad ideas.
Yeah, I haven't played Halo Infinite. I've heard that it's generally a step in a good direction.
It's the right
compared
direction
to some of the previous ones, so that's good. But yeah, I've played most Halo games. I haven't played Infinite. I have not played Reach, which I know is like Halo Reach is amazing. I just haven't never played it. But I feel like just like after 3, 4 was like I didn't love 4.
4 is the worst one by far.
I think 5 is so bad. I had almost no enjoyable moments from Halo 5.
Like as far as like
it at all.
The mechanics were fixed by 5, but the story still wasn't good.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
I will die on the hill that Halo should have ended after 3 and ended on the like perfect high note because Halo 3 I think is one of the best games ever made.
Yeah.
And
ever
would have been a perfect ending.
I feel like they just kept trying to find storylines and plot threads that weren't there. It's like Cortana's evil now. It's like now she's not, and now maybe she is again. And it's like, would you guys just like you're really cheapening like all of the stuff that Master Chief and Cortana went through in the first 3 games by just throwing her back into everything. Anyways, friggin' 343, bunch of dummies. That's not fair. They're probably not a bunch of dummies.
They're struggling right now.
Yeah. Well, not a good time to be a studio owned by Microsoft. So who knows what's going to happen to them.
No, 343. No, I'm thinking about Bungie. Bungie was acquired by Sony. That's right.
Yeah. It's not really a good time to be a studio owned by anybody right now, but particularly Microsoft. Microsoft has been not uncharacteristically, but particularly vicious lately.
Yeah, I'm hoping that like everybody finds a job and is steady, but and I feel bad for all the layoffs, but I'm hoping that we'll get like a renaissance of indie games from all of these people that don't find studios to go back to. And that starts
indie games are
a
better
breeding
anyways.
ground for new ideas.
Eric's Indie Corner. I obviously am a big fan of indie games. Indie games are usually better anyways.
And even
I mean, there's a lot of really good AAA games. I don't mean to diminish that. A lot of really awesome people work really hard to make really awesome games. But for every awesome game, there's 5 terrible AAA games. And indie games are amazing, and I love them. And you should all play all of the games I recommend because I have impeccable taste.
Nah.
Except
all right. On that note,
Miami.
I mean, if you
Miami
talk about 100
just
games,
talk about.
Yeah, if you talk about 100 games, a few of them are bound to be okay.
Yeah, listen,
you just play everything.
At least
I don't think that's a taste thing.
It's a number
10% of the recommendations I make have got to be at least
slut.
Okay. I am a game slut. I play everything. And you know what? I was thinking about that while I was like gathering games for this for us to talk about today. There's a definite gap in like the kind of games that I play. I don't really like big like multiplayer games. And I don't like roguelikes very much generally. And so I was like looking through the list of indie games that I have that I can talk about. And I was like, should I play some of these games to see if I like them so that I could maybe give them a recommend it? But then I was like, you know what? It's Eric's Indie Corner. And this is about the games that I like. And I'm not going to play games that I don't really like just so that I can pretend to like them and talk about them online. So we're only going to talk about games that I like. A good example is when Bellatra won Game of the Year. I sat down and I played that game for like 3 hours and I tried really hard to like it. And I just kind of didn't. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was bad. Just, not really my thing.
Let's face it, being from Utah, none of us really know how to play cards.
I am okay at poker on my best days. Yeah.
That's exactly right. It was always like that taboo thing that you shouldn't really engage in because it's gambling. And in hindsight, it's like you could just play for fun. It's just a game.
It's just a game.
I did not experience any of that. My grandpa taught me how to play poker.
Yeah, my parents
grew up in the mountains with all the liberal crazies, right?
I was going to say that was one thing that my parents were never really like. I wouldn't say that I had overly strict parents when I was little, but they wanted us to make good choices and do good things. So, but that was one thing that it was never like, I could always play cards. We could play poker. I played blackjack when I was like 8, just, betting for candy or nickels or whatever. And that was never a big deal. So,
okay. Well, I had to do it behind my parents' back.
Yeah, my high school graduation party, we had like a whole mini casino that you could win. A mini fridge, just like The Office.
Ooh,
which was fantastic.
Mini fridge. Thanks, I've never had a fridge before. Yeah. All right.
That's great.
Well, before we get too far into this, we probably should wrap this up really quick. So last thing is we want to talk quickly about visuals and sound. Visuals are kind of deliberately ugly, but in a nice kind of a way. It uses this old kind of like Microsoft Paint-ish style pixel art.
It's like mid-aughts, right? Where games were going to the computer and you could play some of those like free-to-play games online. That it's about in that sweet spot.
Yeah, so it uses like a harsh top-down view where you can only see like the top of the head and the shoulders of the character that you're playing as. And there's lots of like old school like VCR filters over things, and it very much evokes like the 80s and late 80s, early 90s with this kind of deliberately ugly pixel art that kind of comes all the way around to looking really nice by being deliberately ugly.
No, and they specifically obviously went for the style of Outrun or Synthwave. It's known by the same thing, but like, this is lifted out of the 80s as far as style, but injected with a little bit of psychedelic flair.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's really reflected as well in the soundtrack. So the soundtrack in this game is really great. Lots of thumping, like electronic tunes that do a good job of getting your pulse pounding and ready to run around and kill a bunch of Russian mobsters. So music composed by lots. It's a big collaborative effort. And I wrote down the names of all of the bands, and I'm afraid to say them because I get it wrong all the time. But music by Moon with a Moon, Reno's, Coconuts, Sun Ara, Perturbator, and it was a collaborative effort. Lots of other bands that I didn't mention there, but those are some of the bigger ones. Soundtrack is really great. This is another one that I listen to just kind of when I'm driving around or working. It's a great soundtrack. It's good stuff. Also, quick fun fact is that this indie game, Hotline Miami 1, not 2, Hotline Miami 1 was initially, the first release was developed in only about 9 months. So cranked it out super fast, which is really uncommon nowadays. Even indie games have sort of longish development cycles nowadays.
I do think Outrun is my favorite design palette I've come to like. It was after playing Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I was like, what is this so evocative of? Oh, it's like being at the arcade. Because you get the neon glow of like the arcade and stuff back from the early 90s or whatever. But just this palette, it captures so much nostalgia. It has so much flair to it and personality. So this one always works on me.
Yeah. A quick little side note is Donkey Kong Bonanza has some of the very best box art I have ever seen, in my life. If I had to order all of the best box arts ever in the whole world, Donkey Kong Bonanza would probably crack the top 5. It's phenomenal. So the Hotline Miami games are not super long. They each take about 6 to 8 hours to complete. So you get a little bit of meat on there, but not super duper long games. The individual games are available on all sorts of platforms. Like I mentioned, PS Vita and, PS3 and lots of older platforms. But for the collection, you can find that on Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series. And it retails for $24.99 for the 2 games bundled together. So not a bad deal. I'd say wait for a sale so that you don't have to pay money for Hotline Miami 2, because the first one's really the good stuff. So yeah.
Did either of you have a PS Vita?
I never did. I was a 3DS guy.
No.
Yeah, we went Nintendo route.
I had a PSP for a little bit.
Yeah, my brother had one of those.
Didn't have that either.
I remember
behind me to fix up, but I don't know what's wrong with it. I haven't touched it yet.
Yeah, I remember having my Game Boy Advance, and my older brother got a PSP, and I was like, "You can do that on a handheld? 3D? Oh, so cool!" Like, I can't remember if it came out before or after the 3DS. I think it came out, or the DS, the first DS. I think it came out a little bit after, but the graphics of the PSP were quite a bit better than the DS.
No, and I was going to fix up this one. The reason that I also didn't is because it was like I think it's a 2000 is the model, and I didn't realize the 3000 is OLED. It was like the first OLED handheld. And so if you're going to go vintage, go with the 3000.
Bet you feel that's amazing. The wrong one, Shan. Yeah, it's a long, like that's some of the earliest OLED technology for gaming stuff, as far as I know.
Old lead.
And with that, I think that's as good a time as any. Thank you for sending us out on a perfect joke, Tucker.
You can't top that ever.
Yeah, it's as good as it gets. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to another episode of Eric's Indie Corner. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Tell all your friends. We would love to be able to engage with you guys. Leave us comments. We'd love to talk with you guys in the comment section. I particularly get really excited when people leave comments in an indie one, and I get to be like, "Oh, I have something to say. I love all these games, and I like to talk to people about them. So please comment. I'd love to talk to you." You can find us wherever you find podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and our regular episodes every Monday. Eric's Indie Corner every Thursday, and I feel like I interrupted Shan. Did you have one last thing you wanted to say before we go?
Well, I'm not sure what our audience does, but I get the sense it's like you either listen to the main or you listen to the indie corners, and like try to follow along with one of those. Like, we need to get our hours up. Try to get at least one friend to subscribe. If we get over 100, the algorithm should start being more generous to us. I'd like to turn this into a thing. I'd like the the game space to have a safe space for discussing games and not being negative. And I don't know. I'd like to work up to the point where we're having casual 2-hour conversations with like studio employees and stuff like that, and getting real insight into the industry that is currently very opaque. That's my dream. Currently, there's no sign that we'll ever get there, but
yeah,
and it's your fault. You need to like more videos.
Maybe one of those recently laid off Microsoft employees will reach out, and we can.
They desperately need something to do with all of their newfound free time.
Yes.
All right.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We will see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Outro. Bleepity-doof, bleepity, bloopity, blow.